Oh, hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So this video is actually helps you to understand what is the API, and this video I'll tell you that full things behind that, like full explanation for API, and also try to explain that all thing as a layman point of view. So let's start this video, guys. So first thing is that API is nothing but a application programming interface. So API, what is that application programming interface stands for? So it is basically a application that application programming interface it is providing. Okay, now it actually allows that two different application can able to talk each other. So here I have given one example, like you use a mobile app and that app talk to the server through that API and fetch the data like that. But let me tell you a story. Suppose imagine you are in at a restaurant and you don't want to like create a new food by yourself. You don't want to cook. On that time, what you need to do, you just ask that waiter that please provide me some food and all, and that waiter actually calls that like chef, and that chef will make that food, and that waiter will bring that food to your plate. So that is the full thing. So here that waiter is, you can see it is a API. Suppose that I have a one application, that application actually helps to create a different thing, and another application was there. I want that another application functionality to my application. So instead of recreating that all things or rewriting that whole code from scratch, what I need to do, I just call that another application's API, and I can fetch the data, I can access their full program and full functionality. But I cannot have access to like change their code, or I cannot able to look at to their code, but I can access that some like things related to functionality and all. Sometimes I can also able to fetch the data and all. So this is called API. So API actually stands for, it is a kind of communication medium between the two applications or two kind of software. Now we have some kind of components in API. Components in the sense of like through that it is kind of building block, through that API has been made. So because of that API has been made. So first thing is like the request. Suppose I hit the URL on browser, so what is happening, that URL actually send, my browser actually send the request to that my web server, and then web server throws that response to my browser, and I can see that my beautiful website or web page or web application. So this is nothing but my request. So here what happen, like client can able to communicate with the server, and that is response, like what server sends back to the client, that client able to receive and client able to see. So that is called response. And there is endpoint. Endpoint is nothing but it is a path or define path through that URL will be goes, or through that your request or response will be coming. So that here endpoint actually like define as an URL. So through that URL we have some specific address. Through that address we can define that whenever where that we need to send that our request, and where that we need to send that our request, and where we'll get that like our response. So that is called endpoint. Another is like methods. We have to perform some kind of action through that our request and response. So those actions in the sense of like it is a kind of like card activity, like create, read, update and delete, remove the data. So this kind of action we want to perform. So for that we have some methods. So in API we have branch of methods. So like branch of methods in the sense of we have mainly four types of methods. One is get method. Get method, through that we can able to fetch the data, or we can able to retrieve the data from server. And there is post method. Through that we can submit the data to the server, or or we can send the new data. Another is put method, that is that we can able to update that existing data. And also delete method, so delete method in the sense of through that we can able to remove the data. So this is total four methods are there. So these four components are main components on that API, but also we have some kind of authorization, authentication token, or OAuth token, API keys also we have. Through that we can API keys kind of a unique keys. Through that we can giving that access to a specific user, not at all. And also we have some rate limiting or throttling things. Also we have some error handling mechanism, or we have some documentation. So those also kinds of a API components, but mainly here four components I have showing here. Okay, now why API testing is important. So as in tester point of view, like why we need to test the API, what is the reason behind it? We can test that our GUI or UI. So why that API testing is necessary for a tester point of view? So first thing is like it is kind of confirm that if that my API is working, that means my GUI also will work. It is kind of assurance get that given by API. Okay, so if that API able to give the right data, that means my backend logic is proper. I just need to check that front end part and all. Another is security. So suppose that we are sometimes handling that, we are checking that some kind of sensitive data related testing. So through that we are using some kind of tools like barbsuit or some kind of different kind of tools are there. Or we're checking that APIs request and response. So through that way we can able to get to know the system security. And also we can test that system performance through that API. So we have branch of tools like JMeter, runner. So through that way we can able to put that so much load, and we can test that our application and is able to withstand with that much load or not. So because of that mainly we are doing that API testing. Now API manual testing. So API manual testing is kind of thing like where that a test engineer is able to test that API manually by that help of different manual tool like Postman or some kind of browser extension or like that. So here we have mainly most popular tool is Postman. So Postman is a tool, through that way we can able to send the request, we can able to viewing the response and status code. And we all and another is like CURL. Through it is a kind of a command line tool or CTL tool. Through that way also we can able to send the request and we can also get the response. And also we have branch of status code guys. Through that status code also we can get to know about that our API is working or not. So how that a tester performs that manual testing. First of that we have to check the documentation. So that documentation will be provided from that development team, or like that team who has developed that API or created that API. Sometimes like if that API has belongs to third party, then they will provide you that documentation regarding that API and all. So through the documentation we have to understand that what is that API functions work and what is the functionality of that API. Then we have to send the request by that help of a tool like Postman and all. And that request will be sent it from like a JSON format, and through URL. That API URL will be provided by our customer or that development team. And JSON data we can mimic it, and we can sometimes use that different kind of data faker libraries to create the fake data and all. Another is like verify the response. Through that way we can check that my API is able to provide that proper correct data or not. In the response JSON, that response JSONs we have already a predefined JSON, and we are actually side by side checking that response JSON, that JSON should be proper. And what is the status of that my server, like that if that I am getting like 100 regarding the status code. So that means like it is a informal, like 100. If I am getting that 100, that means server is able to receive that initial part of the request, and it is waiting for that next part of the request. Say similar way, if I am getting the 200 kind of status code, that means a that everything, that every operation is success. And if that I am getting 204, that means I means like request doesn't have any kind of content and all. Same way, like 300 means like it belongs to redirection error. 400 means like client error, that is like unauthorized bad request, like that way. 404 means like not found. 500 error means like it is server error, that error actually belongs to from server, like that way. We can check the response status code. So through that validate of the status code, we can able to ensure that that our API is working or not. Now, what is that API automation testing? So automation testing is like whatever things we have performed manually, that thing we can test on automated way. So basically we have branch of different tools. So through the tools we can we need to write that script. We can check that our response JSON, and we can check that our status code. So this is that thing will be happen automatically or by the help of script. So that is nothing but my API automation testing. Now why we should why we should automate that our API? So first of all, it saves the time. It can run that multiple API test at once, and also it helps that continuous integration pipeline. Suppose that I have branch of 4000 API cases. That API cases has been automated, and it also provided through that DevOps team, and they have dumped that API cases to that our pipeline, CI/CD pipeline. So for every time, if I'm getting that 100% API automation correction, that means like my backend is working properly. So there is no such major critical error will be appear in future. So that way we can, it is kind of a assurance given by the code itself or script itself, that my API is a proper, that my web application is a proper, and all testing is a properly structurized. Another is like how that API automation works basically. So first thing is like we have to write the script. So that is the most crucial part here. Then we have to run the test thing. We have to run that each script or manually to check that everything is working proper or not. Another is we can check that we can verify the response by that help of manually tool like Postman, and then we can run that our script, automated script in automated way, and check the response. The response should be proper. Another is like then once it is done, then we have to integrate that whole thing in a CI/CD pipeline and run that whenever the new code has been deployed or that new build has been done. So like that way our API automation testing works. Now we have some kind of benefits for API automation testing. Another is like faster testing. Our automation speed will be super fast. Another is it is a very accurate. So we know it is there is no chances for human interruption or human error. And that is reusability. We just need to write one time, and then we can run that same script multiple times. So and another is scalability. So we can run that, we can test hundreds of requests automatically, request and response. So for each and every request and response, we need to check that manually by the help of UI testing or manual testing. But through API automation, we cannot do that all things manually. We just need to check the request and response and status code. That's all. So some that's why there is some best practices involved in API testing. So first thing is like we have to test that all scenario with that valid and invalid input, and then we have to check the response times. Like we need to check that API is a fast enough, or that how much millisecond it is taking, or how much time it is taking. That need to check that response time. And otherwise we need to check we need to validate the data. So we have to make sure that that correct data should be written from that our like web application or like from server. Another, we can check the security by that protecting of sensitive data, like username, password should be like properly encrypted, and it should be properly formatted away. And same way we can use that automate or that repetitive task and all. Now some common API testing tools are there. First is like a Postman. So it is a very popular tool, and it is actually basically a good for manual and basic level of automation testing. So there we just need to create the collection, and then inside that collection we have to create that branch of methods and all. We can also initialize that some global parameter and the local parameter also, and we just need to run that collection with a single click. We can run that whole thing in an automated way. Another is REST Azure. So REST Azure, it is a powerful automation testing tool, but it is required the Java and Maven. So that way we can test that our API. And that is SOAP UI. So basically it is a very ideal for like REST and SOAP API, but it is like a less used nowadays. Another testing tool is a JMeter. JMeter is a best for load and performance testing. Through that JMeter, we can check that load and performance of that our system. We can mimic that branch of data concurrent user, and we can bombard that request to the server, and we can check that our server is able to properly able to handle the load and able to handle the load or not. And also we can calculate the response time from our server end. So what is the conclusion? So conclusion in the sense of API is a very vital for the communication between the two application. So basically that's the API stands for. So it is actually use a medium for communicate between two application. Suppose that my front end code has been there in different server, and my backend code has been there in different server. So API sometimes is used for communicate between that front end and back end also, and same thing happen with that database also. So like that way, or suppose I have created some application and that I need the functionality of the different application, so I can able to like fetch the functionality from the different application by the help of API and API keys. And also API testing is actually ensure that everything is working perfectly, everything is secure, and everything is fast. So that is another thing. So I hope this video actually helps you guys. I try to explain that all things it is a layman point of view. If that you guys have any suggestion, please comment down, and please help me, please subscribe my channel. If that my video is helpful, please like that video and help me to grow on YouTube. And thank you guys, thanks for watching this video, thanks for your valuable time. Thank you, bye bye.